Long ago, in the quiet village of Abo, there lived a beautiful girl named Nnena. Her beauty was unmatched, and her smile could melt the hearts of even the most stubborn villagers. From the day she was born, her parents knew she was special. She was different from other children, calm, quiet, and graceful, but no one could guess the secret she carried. Nnenna grew up to be a kind and humble girl, loved by everyone in the village. Many young men came far and wide, hoping to win her heart, but she turned them all down. Her parents wondered why she never showed interest in any man, but she always reassured them, saying, "The right time will come." Then one day, a wealthy and handsome young man named Ekene came to Abo. He was a trader known for his travels across many lands, bringing wealth and prosperity to his family. The moment Ekene saw Nnenna, he was captivated. He had never seen a woman so beautiful, and he made up his mind that she would be his wife. Ekene courted Nnenna with great determination. He brought gifts, helped her parents, and soon won their favor. Nnenna, seeing how much he cared, finally agreed to marry him. The village was filled with joy and preparations for the grand wedding. The day of the wedding arrived, and it was the most beautiful ceremony Abo had ever seen. Drummers played, dancers performed, and the villagers celebrated with laughter and feasting. Nnenna looked stunning in her traditional attire, and Ekene couldn't believe his luck. But as night fell and the wedding feast ended, something dark and airy began to unfold. Ekene led Nnenna into their new home, excited to start their life together. The moon shone brightly through the window as he prepared to join his bride. But as he drew closer, he noticed something strange. Nnenna was standing still, her back turned to him, but her shadow on the wall didn't match her form. The shadow on the wall was a snake. Ekene's heart raced. He blinked, thinking his eyes were playing tricks on him. But when he looked again, the shadow of the snake remained slithering and coiling on the wall as if it had a life on its own. "Nnenna," Ekene called out in a trembling voice. She didn't respond. Instead, a low hissing sound filled the room. Ekene's blood ran cold as Nnenna slowly turned around to face him. Her eyes, once warm and kind, were now glowing yellow, like the eyes of a predator. Her lips parted, revealing sharp venomous fangs. Before Ekene could move, Nnenna began to change. Her arms and legs twisted unnaturally, and her skin shed, revealing shimmering scales underneath. Her body elongated, and within moments, she had transformed completely into a giant, terrifying snake. Ekene screamed, stumbling backward, knocking over a table as he tried to escape, but the door slammed shut, trapping him inside with a creature that was once his bride. Nnenna, now fully a snake, slided closer. Her eyes locked on Ekene. She opened her mouth wide, revealing her fangs once more, and let out a terrifying hiss. Ekene's heart pounded in his chest as Nnenna, now fully transformed into the monstrous snake, slowly coiled around him. Her thick, cold body wrapped tighter, squeezing the breath out of him as he struggled to break free. "Nnenna," Ekene gasped, his voice hoarse with fear. What are you doing? The snake eyes flashed, and for a moment he saw a flicker of a woman he once knew. Her voice came soft but chilling, echoing in the room like a whisper in the wind. I warned you, the right time would come. Ekene's mind raced. The village elders had often told stories of people who weren't what they seemed, beings who walked among humans but were creatures from the spirit world. He never believed them, dismissing them as tales to scare children. But now he was trapped in one of those very nightmares. Nnena loosened her grip just enough for Ekene to stumble backward, his back hitting the wall. His mind spun. There had to be a way out. Nnena, I love you, he shouted desperately, hoping to reach the human part of her. I married you because I love you. Don't do this. For a moment, Nnena froze. Her snake eyes blinked and she recoiled slightly, as if his words had struck something deep within her. The room grew still. Ekene held his breath, daring to hope. But then, without warning, the air around them grew heavy with dark presence. The window rattled as the fierce wind swept through the room, and the flames in the oil lamps flickered and died. The room plunged into darkness, save from the dim glow of Nnena's glowing eyes. A deep rumbling voice echoed from nowhere, and yet everywhere. It was a voice older than time itself, cold and merciless. Love cannot save her now. Ekene looked around frantically, trying to find the source of the voice. Who are you? He stammered. The voice ignored him, speaking instead to Nnena. You know what you are. You cannot deny your true form. The time has come. Nnena hissed, her body trembling. It was as if she were fighting something within herself. Torn between two forces, the snake coiled tighter again, and Ekene felt the walls closing in on him. Sweat poured down his face as he struggled to breathe. The voice laughed, low and menacing. There is no escape. Nnena, fulfill your destiny or face the consequences. Nnena's eyes flickered again, the human in her trying to resurface. She looked at Ekene, her expression unreadable. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, I'm sorry. With that, she lunged at Ekene, fangs bared and dripping with venom. Ekene let out a scream, trying to shield himself, but his body was frozen with fear. Just as her fangs were about to pierce his skin, the door to the room burst open, flooding the space with light. An old woman, covered in strange markings, stood in the doorway, holding a staff wrapped with charms and leaves. Nnena, the old woman shouted, her voice commanding and powerful. Nnena froze mid-strike, her body twitching as if some invisible force held back. The snake recoiled, hissing violently as it turned towards the woman. Old woman. You cannot escape your fate, the old woman said, her eyes burning with intensity. But this is not the time, not yet. Nnena slighted backward, confused and angry. Who are you to tell me what I am? She hissed. The old woman raised her staff, and a blinding light filled the room. Nnena let out a piercing scream as her body convulsed, shifting back into her human form. She collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily, her once beautiful face now twisted with pain. Ekene still pressed against the wall, stared in shock, barely able to process what had just happened. The old woman turned to him, her eyes dark with warning. "This is only the beginning," she said quietly. "The true battle has yet to come, and when it does, you must be ready." Without another word, the old woman stepped into the shadows, disappearing as mysteriously as she had appeared. Ekene crawled toward Nnena, who lay on the floor, her eyes shut, her body trembling. He reached out to touch her, but before he could, her eyes shut open. They glowed yellow once more. "Ekene," she whispered, her voice filled with both sorrow and danger.